Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on Outlook Super Tricks. Some would call it tips and tricks. My name is Juan Cuellar. I am here with OfficePro. I am the senior instructor, and I will be your presenter for today's webinar. A couple of housekeeping things before we jump in. As you can see, today's schedule. Hold on here. Let me make sure we are going live. There you go. So as you can see on my slide here, today's schedule will go from 11:30 through about 12:30. So we will go for about an hour. Now, here's what for today's webinar, we have a really great presentation where we're going to present and we're going to demo a variety of tools and features in Outlook that you may be aware of, may not be aware of, or may not be taking the full taking advantage of them and leveraging them to help you maintain or manage your Outlook. Now, what we'll do is we'll go through the presentation and then we will open up for Q&A at the end. Now, you guys are welcome to post any questions, comments, or concerns at any moment. But like I mentioned, we'll address those questions, comments, or concerns towards the end. Now, if you'd like to submit a question for the Q&A, you can do that at any time. Now, today we're using GoToWebinar. So if you do want to submit a question, what you want to do is you want to locate this little vertical toolbar, usually displays on the right side of your screen. And that top button, the orange arrow or the orange button with a white arrow, that'll expand the control panel. And you'll notice that on the bottom half of the control panel, you'll see the questions section. So again, you are more than welcome to submit questions, comments, or concerns through that. And like I said, we will address those towards the end during the Q&A portion. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, there are some of these tips and tricks which are, boom, really easy to start implementing. And then there are some of these tips and tricks that do require a little bit of a setup, but let's take a look at that. So the first tipping trick that we want to talk to you about is the auto create. So I'm going to email myself, but let's pretend that somebody's going to email you. And by the way, I'm logged in as Sheldon. So that's my training account, Sheldon Cooper. So I'm going to email myself, and let's say budget review. Let's say that's going to be the subject of the email. But let's say this email is coming from my supervisor and they are asking, are you available on Friday afternoon to review the budget, right? And again, I'm just using a very generic scenario, right? And let's say my supervisor, I report to, let's see, I report to Andrea Contreras. Let's say that's my supervisor, that's my boss, and she's asking if I can block off some time on Friday afternoon to, review the budget. Now, I'm going to go ahead and send it to myself. Now, you'll see in a second that that'll come through. And in the meanwhile, let's get rid of some of these other things here. Okay. Now you'll notice I just got a new email called budget review. And I see Andrea is asking me, oh, are you available Friday afternoon? Now, have you ever had the situation where you have some information in email, but you now need that information somewhere else in Outlook? Like, for example, what if I want to schedule a meeting based off of the information in this email? So this is what we mean by auto create. Watch this. What I can do, and by the way, just as a side note, I don't know if this has been updated on your Outlooks yet, but all the buttons to switch between the mail, your calendar, your tasks, and all of the other things, they used to be on the bottom left, but now they're listed down the left side. So notice here I see my calendar icon. You guys see that on my screen? Well, let's say that I want to take this email and use that as the base for a new event or meeting. So what I can do is I can now take that email and watch this. I can drag it onto one of the other areas of Outlook, such as the calendar, and watch what's going to happen when I drop it on top of the calendar icon. Give it a second. Boom. Look at what it did. Notice how it's creating a new appointment on my calendar. Notice that the subject of the meeting is the title, or excuse me, the subject of the email is the title of the meeting. Notice how all the content of the meeting, or of the email rather, is in the meeting details. So whatever information was in your email, now that's in the body of your meeting. Now, Outlook is not smart enough to determine what date and time. But that's when we need to just plug in some basic information like Friday afternoon. Okay, so I'm going to schedule this for Friday the 10th. What time in the afternoon? Let's say I'm available from 2 to 3. So again, you can go ahead and block that time off. Now you can add a location if you want. Now at the moment, this is just an appointment for yourself. So you are blocking off time for yourself. But let's say that I want to invite my supervisor who emailed me in the first place. So what I can do is I could click invite attendees, but what that's going to do is that's going to make it a regular Outlook meeting where it's designed to meet in some kind of conference room or physical location. But nowadays a lot of us are working remotely. So instead of just inviting somebody, I'm going to add the team meeting component. So give that a second and notice how it added that join information in the body. Notice how the location now says, oh, this is going to be a Microsoft Teams meeting, meaning an online meeting. And so now all I need to do is invite the attendees. Now, I don't really have an Andrea account. I'm just going to use Penny. She is one of my training accounts. Let's say I actually report to her. But notice how streamlined that was. I was able to take a meeting with an email with some information, convert it to an appointment, then convert it to a meeting, invite everybody who's needs to be there, select the date and time, and I did not have to copy and paste or retype all of that information. At this point, I can just click send. And now to confirm, I can now go back to my calendar and look at this Friday. Let me go back to my main calendar here and notice this Friday, look at that. I now have a meeting called Budget Review. And if I open up that meeting invitation, notice how, again, this is the one that I created from that email. And the nice thing is, this doesn't only work from an email to the calendar. Let's say somebody sends you an email, and let's pretend that this email from Andrea, instead of asking if I'm available to review the budget, maybe she's asking me to update the budget and share it out to the team once finished. Well, that's not a meeting I need to follow up with. That's something I have to do. So check this out. I can take that email, drag it onto the little clipboard. Now, the clipboard, for those of you who don't know, are tasks. So notice if I drag it onto the clipboard, now it's creating a new task. Notice the name of the task or the subject of the task is the subject of the email. But let's say I want to change that. Instead of review, maybe I want to put in there update budget. And then I can choose when I should start. Let's say I want to start tomorrow. I'll have it be due Friday, but I need to get this done before our review meeting on Friday. So maybe I want to give myself a reminder to make sure I complete it at 9 a.m. so it's ready by the afternoon. So notice now I have a task and I've added a reminder. So when I click save, that's it. And again, to double check, I can go to the tasks and notice due this week, I have that budget. And again, that task will have all the email content. So again, that's a really great way to streamline some of your processes in Outlook. All right. Now, that is auto create. Now, the next one, I'm sure many of you have seen it, but maybe you aren't taking full advantage of it. The next one, the next feature is called flag for follow-up. Now, what are flag for follow-ups? Well, have you noticed that as you go through in your list of emails, you can click an email. And now notice this one says, this one is from Howard. It says, "Hi, Sheldon. Did you get a chance to update the budget report?" And it's like, oh my gosh, this other guy I report to, he's actually asking for the budget report now. But maybe I want to get to it this afternoon, right? Well, notice when you point to an email, there's a little flag icon there. Now, watch what happens when I click that flag icon. Notice the flag turns red and the email is now highlighted in yellow. So that now I know that some people use this as kind of like a way to bookmark an email. So if you need to be able to later find an email quickly, you can just go to it, click on the flag, and have that be that, right? But the reality is that these flags are not designed to be used as a bookmark. They are designed to be used as marking an email for something that you need to follow up with. Now, when you just click on the flag, it assigns that follow-up for the current date. But what if I have another email that I want to follow up with? And I'm just going to choose a random email here. Let's see here. I'm just going to choose this random email here. Let's say that this one I want to follow up with tomorrow. Notice instead of just clicking the flag, I can right click the flag and notice how we have different due dates. If you just click on the flag, the default will be due today. But if I want something to be due tomorrow, later this week, next week, maybe I don't want to give it a due date or I want to select a custom date, we can do that. Well, this one I'm going to select for tomorrow. And notice the difference is really subtle, but notice the one that's due today has a little bit of a darker red flag than the one that's due tomorrow. And that's so you can see that the intensity of that red subtly diminishes or gets bolder the closer it is due. So let's say maybe instead of tomorrow, I want this one to be due next week. So notice that flag is now a very light pink. Now, here's the problem with this, though. Because, okay, great, now they're flagged, but I still have to remember to follow up with them. Well, that doesn't mean no good. I want Outlook to remind me, right? So let's go to another email. Let's find another email here. And again, which email doesn't really matter. The point is we're flagging them. Now, let's say I need to get to this one maybe next Monday. So here's what I would do, but I want to be reminded at Monday 10 a.m. that I need to follow up with this email. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click the flag. I'm not going to choose one of these options here, but rather I'm going to go down to the little bell that says add reminder. Now in the reminders, notice it says flag to do what? Well, flag to follow up, flag to for your as an FYI, flag to forward, flag to respond, flag to read, reply, review. So you have tons of options to choose from. I'm just going to leave it as follow up for now. But when should I follow up with it? When should it start and when is it due? Well, like I said, I want to follow up with it next Monday. So I'll set the 13th and I'll have it be due Wednesday. But here's the best part. Similar to tasks, you can set a start date and a due date, but now here you can choose when you want to be reminded. So maybe I want to be reminded at Monday the 13th at 10 a.m. So again, this is the most practical for me at least, because now I don't have to remember to follow up. Outlook will remind me. And notice that once I add a reminder, yes, it does flag it, but notice that it also adds a little bell icon. So I know I've already added a follow-up to it. You see how that works? And now I don't have to remember myself. Outlook will remind me when it's time. So there you go. That's the second topic. So we went through the auto create where you can drag and drop an email into different areas of Outlook and create those types of components. We took a look at the flags slash reminders for emails. And by the way, if you're ever curious to see a list of all your flags, there are many ways to do that. For one, you can filter. Notice over here, you have a little drop down that says by date. And if I go down and I see arrange by, or actually, let me correct myself. Up here in the filter, it says show all emails, but maybe I only want to see my flagged emails. So I can click on that and notice it hides all the ones that I don't have a follow-up, and I can see only the ones that I do have a follow-up. Now, I'm gonna go back to all. So now flagged emails are things you need to do, right? Things you need to follow up with. But remember the tasks? Now, the tasks are interesting because when you go to the clipboard icon, it takes you to your to-do list, not the task list. Now, under your tasks, you can actually create specifically a task, kind of like I did to update the budget. But notice in the to-do list here, this shows me not only the tasks, but also all those emails that I flagged. So this is great because this shows you in one central place everything you need to follow up with, whether regardless if they are tasks or emails. So that's also helpful to know. Okay, so let's take a look at the next topic. Now, this next topic was kind of like mind-blowing to me when I found out about it. So what if I want all the emails that that meet some kind of criteria to be highlighted to me? Now, this could be used in any way. The feature is called conditional formatting. What this means is that you can give Outlook a specific condition and have those emails pop out to you in different formats. Let me give you an example. Let's say I want all the emails from my colleague Dwight to be bold and green. But let's say that I want all the emails with a specific keyword. Let's use the term fall conference. I want all emails related to the fall conference to be bright orange. Now, right now, all the emails come in, and when they are unread, they're just this blue color. When they're marked as red, they kind of get rid of that blue, but it's kind of bland, right? But you can now set what's called conditional formatting rules to have emails highlight to you based off of whatever condition you want. So let's take a look. What I can do is go across the top. This time we're going to go to the View tab. Now, in the View tab, to the left, you're going to see these three current view buttons: current view, view settings, and then reset view. I'm going to go now. By the way, right now I am using the compact view, but I'm going to customize it by clicking on the view settings button. Now you'll notice there are tons of settings that I can configure here, but if you look towards the bottom, here's a button that says conditional formatting, and it says user defined fonts on each message. Well, let's see what that means. When I click conditional formatting, it will have some rules already in there. I actually recommend you leave those rules as they are, but you can create your own custom rules. So notice over here, I'm going to click add. Now it asks for the name of the rule. So I'm going to call this one emails from Dwight. So that's the name of the rule. But then it says, okay, what font? How do you want those formatted? So watch this. I'm going to click the font button, and you have all of these customizations. You can choose a specific font. So let's use stencils. Notice you can do bold, italicized, or regular. I'll just use regular. You can choose the size, And notice you see a sample of the preview here. But what I like to do is, now, by the way, you can apply a strike through, you can apply an underline. So again, you have full control, but I like to use colors. So remember I said for Dwight, I wanted them in green. So I'm going to select this green color, and there it goes. So once I'm ready, I click OK. And then now here's the thing, you gave this rule the name, you gave the rule what format to use, but you need to tell the rule when to apply it. In here, it's called the condition. So I'm going to click the condition button, and here we have tons and tons of different conditioning options. I'm going to keep this one simple. I'm going to say whenever the email is from, and you could click the button here to look up your organization's address book, but here we have Dwight Schrute. So I'm going to add Dwight to the from field. So what that's saying is whenever I get an email from Dwight, apply this formatting. At this point, I'm finished making that rule, but just to show you, you're not limited to just one rule. I wanted another rule that says any emails with the words fall conference. So I'm going to go back to add another rule. I'm going to call it fall conference emails. Now, what font do I want? Well, let's take a look here. Let's say I'm going to use the show card font. I'm going to make them really big. And what color do we want to use? Maybe I want to use a really bright color. So I'm going to use fuchsia. So I'm going to click OK. Now I've given it the name, what font to use, but the important part, don't forget when to apply it, right? What condition needs to be met to apply that rule. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say search for the words, and I'm going to type in here fall conference. Fall conference. Now notice it says search for the word fall conference in the subject. But what if fall conference is in the body or somewhere else in the email? Well, I can click this drop down and I can switch to either subject and message body or frequently used text messages. That's kind of like a catch-all. Okay, well, now what I'm going to do is click OK. I'm finished with both of those custom rules, so I'm going to click OK a second time. And I'm finished customizing the view, so I'm going to click OK a third time. Now watch closely. Notice all of a sudden, look, I see this big bold green email. Why is that green? Because it's from Dwight. And as I scroll through my inbox, oh, look, I see this bright pink. It's bright pink because somewhere in here it says fall conference. It says fall conference. And the same thing with this email here, the same thing with this email here. So notice here's another green email. So notice how nice it is to have Outlook highlight, color code emails that are coming in, regardless if they are marked as red or not. It can color code things based off of how you want. So again, that was called conditional formatting. Conditional formatting. And remember, the way I did that was I went to the View tab, went to the View settings, went to conditional formats, and then you can create and customize rules here. All right. Now, what's next? Now, another feature we want to talk about is called categories. Now, let me start off by removing all the categories from my email so I can show you how to work with those from scratch. So let's clear all categories. Give that a second. Now, let's start off by while this is processing, let's talk about what exactly are categories. Well, categories in Outlook, it sounds silly, but allow you to categorize things in Outlook. Now, what these conditional formatting rules, this is great because it kind of highlights things when they're related to different people or different topics or whatever condition you want. You saw there are tons of different conditions you can have those meet. But there is a specific feature that allows you to categorize things however you see fit. You can categorize things by different department. You can categorize things by different clients, by different projects, by different people. However you want to categorize things, you are in full control because you create the categories based off how you want to categorize items. So let's start off by talking about how to manage your categories. Now, the first thing you want to do is select any email, doesn't matter which one, and from the home tab, now for you guys, notice how I have this drop down menu here called tags. Now that's the name of the group. So for example, I see the groups, I see the find group, the speech group. On my monitor, it didn't have space to display the buttons in the tags group. So I had to click the tags drop down. But once I look at the tools under the tags group, notice I see assign policy, mark red as unread, categorize, or lookup or follow up. Now I'm going to go to the categorize. Now you can see which categories I already have, but if you are new to Outlook or new to this account and you've never touched categories, what you may see is the orange category, the green category, the purple category, the blue category. Now, for you to manage the names and the colors and which categories you are going to have, you can go down to all categories. This is where I personally like to manage my categories because from here, I could select an existing category. I could change the color. I could rename. I could assign a keyboard shortcut if I wanted to. Or if there's a category I no longer need, I can select it and get rid of it and delete it. You see that? Now, you can see that right now I have several categories. I have a category for billing. So I use the green color. I have a category for business. I have a category for fall conference. I have a very generic category that says important. Whenever I need to mark something as important or personal or training. Now, if you have another category that you need, again, you can redefine one of those default color categories or just click new. And let's say, I'm just going to use a generic term, Project XYZ, Project XYZ. So you give the category a name, you choose what color you want to use, and let's see here. I'm going to use the dark red here, this red here. And again, you can even assign a keyboard shortcut. I'm not going to worry about keyboard shortcuts right now, so I'm just going to click OK. And just like that, I got a new category. Now, notice how that brand new category came in automatically checked. What these checkboxes means is you want to apply those categories to the selected item. And at the moment, I'm not even trying to apply categories. I just wanted to manage them. So I'm going to uncheck all of them and then click OK. Now, if we go back to the categorize dropdown, you will notice there's my brand new category. So let's talk about how to work with them. Well, as I get emails, as I go through this, I can now start categorizing things. So again, this email here talks about the budget. Well, notice if I go to the tags and categories, I have a category called billing. The budget is related to billing. So I'm going to categorize it as billing. Now, notice when I did that on the email, it put a little green symbol here that represents the color of that category. And when I select that email, so let me go back to the email here. Notice you can see the category that's been assigned. Now, this one over here is also asking me about the budget. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to apply the billing. Now, let's see here. This one over here, this email highlighted in pink, this has to do with the fall conference. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go tag it as fall conference. And notice you can see that purple icon and purple there. And just like that, you can go through and tag things however you see fit. Let's say this is an important email, so I'm going to highlight that as important, or I'm going to tag it as important. And again, you can go through and apply those things as you work throughout the day. Now, let's say this one here is related to business, and this one here. Now, let me show you this. This email here. This obviously has to do with the budget. But what if this is specifically about the budget for the fall conference? So notice how this email here is related to two different categories. Well, notice if I go here and I select, I can tag it with billing, and notice there's the billing, but notice I can go back and tag it also with fall conference. So notice we are not limited to just one category per item. There are some times where one item is going to be related to various categories. Here's the thing, maybe this email is related to the budget billing for the fall conference, but this is an important email that I need to quickly be able to find. So again, I got a category for important too. You see how that works? So again, you can go in and just categorize things left and right. Now, mind you, here's the best part about this. Those categories are not only available for emails. If I go to my calendar, I can also categorize meetings. So I know oftentimes people have the question, how can I color code meetings in my calendar? By using categories. Now, let's say, remember this meeting I scheduled for this Friday? This has to do with reviewing the budget. Well, there's a category for billing. So I'm going to select that meeting, click on the categories dropdown. Watch this. Here's the billing. Look at that. It now colored it green. Now, this email today, later this afternoon, has to do with the venue selection. This has to do with the venue for the conference, that fall conference. So what am I going to do? I'm going to tag it with fall conference. Look at that. Now, we all know Valentine's Day is coming up. So notice that holiday's automatically on my calendar, and I need to remember to get something for my girlfriend, right? Or my wife, my spouse, whoever that might be. Well, I can mark that appointment as important. And again, so notice how the categories, the colors do tag it. And now I know that everything in green refers to billing, everything in purple refers to fall conference, everything yellow is important. And again, if I double click to open up those meetings, you can see which categories have been assigned across the top. Here's the best part about this. Not only is it going to help you get organized, but check this out. Let's go back to the emails. So remember, I've been categorizing emails left and right, correct? But then let's say I only care to see emails related to the fall conference. Now, there are different ways that you can leverage these categories. Remember how earlier I showed you how you can say, look, filter to only show me the flagged emails? But notice below that it says arranged by. Now, typically it's arranged by the date you received those emails. But notice how we can arrange it by categories. So watch closely. When I change the view to arrange by categories, now across the top, it gives me the category or the group called none, meaning these are all the emails that are not categorized. If I collapse that to hide it, notice, oh, look, here's all the emails for the billing category. Here's the emails for the business category, fall conference category, important category. Now, here's what I like to do. I like to right-click any one of these groups and collapse them all, because this now allows me to expand only what I need to see. So if now I only want to see the business emails, I can expand it. If I want to see the fall conference emails, I can expand that. And so notice I can now pick and choose which categories emails I want to see. Isn't that great? Now, when you're finished viewing your emails by category, you can just go back to the dropdown and arrange them again by date, and then we're back to the default. But what if you don't want to see the emails for every single category? What if you only want to see the emails for a particular category? Well, for that, we can use the search. Now, obviously, the search works off of a keyword, right? But there are many other attributes that you can base searches off of. So watch this. If I click on search, I'm not going to type any keyword, but rather I'm going to kind of click on the ribbon here to close this drop-down menu because it's getting in my way. But notice once I have clicked in the search, I get the search tab. And on that search tab, I have many, many refiners for the search. And notice it says, well, I'm looking for emails that have been categorized. Well, by which category? Well, what if I want to see only the emails that have been categorized for the fall conference? So watch closely. When I do that, it adds that tag in the search, and now it's only showing me emails with that fall conference category, which is great, it's helpful. But now that I know, I can also tag calendar items, contacts, tasks. What if I want to see everything related to email to a specific category, not just the emails? Well, when you perform a search, it performs a search in the current mailbox or in the current folder, but it only searches for emails. But notice there's another scope here that says, well, search for all Outlook items. So watch closely. Notice that now it's grouping them by which folder they're on. And check this out. So now I can see all the items in my calendar that have been tagged with a fall conference. I can expand it. And here are all of those meetings. Here are all of those meetings. Now I can see all my contacts that are related to the fall conference. These might be my project team or contractors. I can see all the emails in my inbox. I can see all my custom notes, all emails in my sent items, and even all the tasks that have been tagged with that category. So category to me is one of the most underutilized features in Outlook that have the biggest bang for your buck, because when you customize the categories and start categorizing things left and right, emails, calendar appointments, contacts, tasks, notes, then it makes it ultra easy to find absolutely everything that's related to that category. And again, that could be a category for a colleague, that could be a category for a department, a project, whatever area of business you need. All right. So there are your categories. Now, the next topic I want to mention is called rules. Now, we know that there is a lot of manual processes in Outlook. You gotta reply, you gotta forward, you gotta file things in different folders, you gotta mark it as read, you gotta schedule a meeting, or I wanted to flag, whatever, right? There are all of these manual things, but there are these things called rules in Outlook that can streamline and automate your routine processes. Now, rules require three different elements. they require a trigger or a condition that the email must meet to trigger the rule, and they also require an action. So what should set off the rule and what should the rule do? Now you have an option to set certain exceptions if you need that. So let me give you an example. So as you saw, I'm involved with this project and I'm getting emails for fall conference all the time. And notice every single time I have to go in and manually assign the category. And then what if I want all the emails for the fall conference to be filed in the fall conference folder? So I have a folder created, but now I have to manually file those emails. But what if I'd like to streamline and automate that? So check this out. What I'm going to do is from the Home tab, I'm going to expand the Move group, and here is a drop-down menu called Rules. Now, I'm going to go to the bottom where it says Manage Rules. I'm not going to create a rule because that'll give you limited functionality. If you want the full robust options, you can go to Manage Rules. Okay, now from here, you can create a new rule by clicking the New Rule button. And notice there are different templates that you can choose from, but I want to create one from scratch, a blank rule. So down here, notice it says start from a blank rule. Now it says, do you want to apply this rule when messages are received or when messages are sent? So do you want to apply a rule when you receive messages in your inbox or after you send the message and then they are in the sent items? Well, most of the time it's for messages I receive. So I'm going to click that. Now notice down here it starts putting the description of the rule in English. So it says, apply this rule after messages are received. So, okay, then we can click next. The next thing, this is the condition or the trigger. So what condition must the email meet to run the actions that I will set? And notice there are tons of options, and you're not limited to one. You can set up multiple combinations of requirements. But in this case, I'm just going to use one example. Notice down here it says, so it says, select which condition you want to check. So I'm looking for emails with specific words in the subject or body. So I'm going to check that. So notice down here it says apply this rule after messages arrive with specific words in the body or in the subject or body. But here's the thing, I need to specify which words. So I'm going to click that variable down here, and it's going to ask me, well, which words? Well, definitely fall conference. Fall conference, and I add it. Now, if there are multiple words that you want to catch, you can add as many words or phrases as you need. I'll keep it as fall conference for now. So now it says, apply this rule after messages arrive with fall conference in the subject or body. Great. So that's my condition. Next, what actions do I want to take? Well, I wanted to move it to the fall conference folder. So notice it says, move it to the specified folder. So I'm going to check that. And I'm going to specify which folder. And there it goes. But every time an email says fall conference, I also want it tagged with the fall conference category. So if I keep looking down, let's see here. Where did that option go? Oh, this is the second option from the top, duh. It says assign it to the category. So I'm going to add that, and I got to specify which category. So I'm going to select the fall conference category. And again, you can have it do all sorts of things here. Now, here's one of my concerns. When I create a rule that automatically files emails into different folders, I won't see them in my inbox. So I might miss it. So here's a way so you can have your pie and eat it too. You can have emails automatically filed, but you can be notified of it. Notice at the bottom of the actions list, it says display a specific message in the new alert window. So I'm going to add that to the actions, and it's going to say, okay, display specific message. Well, what message? I'm going to put in here a new fall conference email has been filed. So that's kind of like a little custom notification to myself. So watch this. I'm going to click OK. So I've told it what should trigger this rule. I've told it what the rule should do. And then the next step is set any exceptions. So there may be a condition or where you don't want the rule to run. And here's the thing, exceptions are optional. You don't have to add an exception. You definitely have to add a condition and an action, but not an exception. So I'm going to leave it empty. I'm going to click next. Notice you can name the rule and it lays it out here. So notice it says, here's the review of the rule. It says, apply this rule after messages arrive with fall conference in the subject or body. Display a new fall conference email has been filed in the new items alert window. Assign it to the fall conference category and move it to the fall conference folder. So you see how it kind of puts it in English for you. Now, here's the thing. If I turn this on, it'll run this for all future incoming emails. So I definitely want this checkbox that says turned on. But what about all the previous emails I have in here already? What if I want this rule to run retroactively? Well, notice it says run this rule now on messages already in the inbox. So I'm going to click that. And when I click finish, notice it's running the rule looking for all emails that already exist in the inbox. And then it says, look, this rule will only run when you are in Outlook. So if you're using Outlook, the web app, or on another device like your mobile device, this rule will not run then. It'll only run when you are in Outlook here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click apply. All right, and then I'm going to click OK. So now here's what should happen. All the emails in my inbox related to the fall conference should now be in the fall conference folder. So notice, remember the fall conference folder was empty, but notice I have 45 emails that were automatically moved here for me, and all of them have been tagged to the fall conference category. But what happens for new emails? Well, let's see what happens, right? Let's take a look. I'm going to create a new email, and I'm going to just test it out by emailing myself. So I'm going to email Sheldon, and I'm going to ask a question for the fall conference venue. And I'm going to ask Sheldon, have we determined where we will host the FC, short for fall conference? Now, here's the thing. This email does contain the keyword fall conference, so it should automatically trigger that rule. Now, let's watch closely. The top email in my inbox is called budget review. Notice that in the fall conference, it says we have 2 unread emails. Now, let's go ahead and send this email to myself and watch closely. Give it a minute. Watch closely here and watch closely here. Did you see how it shifted there? If you blink, you missed it. But notice how now the fall conference folder reflects there are 3 unread messages. And by the way, remember that new alert? That's what this pop-up here is. So notice that when that email was moved, that alert gave me a list of the emails that were moved, and it gives me the custom message that I set. A new fall conference email has been filed. So if I miss the fact that it came in and it moved it, I don't have to remember to go check all the time. I can just let this alert let me know, and I can do one of two things. I can either select it and open the item, right? And notice there it is. Or I can just dismiss these notes by closing it, and then I can manually go to the folder, and there is the email. How about that, right? All right. Well, if there are no further questions, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, I ask that if you can take a minute or two, give us your thoughts in the email. We would love to hear your thoughts. But again, thank you for joining. I hope you got a lot out of it. Have a great afternoon. See you in the next class.